Hi, and welcome to Debt Free Divorcee. My name is Kiosha, and I help women heal and rebuild after divorce. I recently bought a house, and I'm so excited to share some of my financial journey with you guys and to share some strategies and tips that I think are going to help you also in your journey to home ownership. Of course, buying a home is one of the major financial goals for many women after divorce. And if nothing else, I want you to walk away from this episode feeling like it's possible for you and also feeling like you have some steps, some tangible things that you can do to help you along in that journey and to help you reach that financial goal. So I can be a little long-winded. I'm going to try to keep it short. I'm going to try to keep it concise. But I really want to focus on three main areas in this episode: debt, savings, and credit. All three of these things are extremely important during the home buying process. They're also all really dense topics that can really be a full episode on their own. So give me a comment and let me know, do you want to learn more about either of these areas specifically as it relates to home ownership? Or is there something else that you want to learn about that I can dive deeper into in a future episode? So let's get into the three keys that help me unlock my potential for home ownership. The first key is getting out of debt. Debt weighs you down. It's one of those things that we kind of feel like we need. We're kind of told that we have to navigate this thing called debt in order to have a financial future. But the truth of the matter is, it pulls you down in the end, right? Especially if you're not able to pay your debts back in a timely manner, you're dealing with high interest rates, all these things. So for me, I was married for 10 years. And at the end of my marriage, I had $80,000 in debt. 80,000 just for me, right? The majority of that was student loan debt. And so I had to prioritize getting out of that. And so one of the things that helped me with that was my decision not to keep my house, my marital home. That's another topic that's very, very personal and something that I do dive deeper into in a later episode. So I hope that you guys will check that one out when it drops. But just for the purposes of this conversation, suffice it to say that not keeping the house allowed me to get some cash that I was able to use to help pay off the $80,000 in debt. Didn't cover it all, but it helped significantly to get me a good start. And so I was able to pay a good chunk of my debt off and then focus on the rest using my debt snowball. A major part of my debt was student loans. I had about $60,000 in student loan debt out of that 80. And so when it came time to start paying those student loans back, and when I shifted my focus to paying those student loans back, I really wanted to make sure that I was strategic about how I did that. And so I used the debt snowball method to pay off a large amount of student loan debt. I think I paid about $20,000 off in using the debt snowball, right? And then I kind of shifted my process because I got my divorce during the pandemic, and during the pandemic there was no requirements to pay your student loans back, and there had been all these conversations about whether or not student loan debt was going to be forgiven. And so I was like, what? And so I shifted my strategy from paying my student loans directly to just saving that money. So I was still doing the debt snowball, but I was putting the money into savings. And so when it came time for me to start paying again, I called them up and I was like, hey, I'm ready to restart payments on this. And the woman just said, your student loans have been forgiven. And I almost hit the floor because I just knew that lady wasn't talking to me. I was like, oh, what do you mean forgiven? And long story short, by the grace of God, my student loans had in fact been completely forgiven, and I was completely debt free. And so the money that I had been saving was there in the bank, and I was so excited that I had cash. Like, I have money in the bank. And so that story of how I became debt free really just is a reminder to me, not only of the diligence that is required to reach your financial goals, but also just the hand of the Lord when we're faithful with what He has given us. So let's move on to the second key for unlocking your potential for home ownership, and that is savings. Savings is a huge part of your home ownership journey because you need money for stuff when you're trying to buy a house. You need money for a down payment. You need money for maintenance and things around the house. You need money for emergencies. Like, there's just always something that you're going to need money for when it comes to home ownership. So having that kind of saving strategy and just that savings muscle is extremely important. So first of all, your down payment, right? When it comes to your down payment, you want to have at least 20% saved, 20% of the cost of whatever home you want to buy. So if you want to buy a $400,000 house, you want to try to have $80,000 set aside. Why? Because if you don't have at least 20% ready to put down on the house, the lender can charge you something called PMI. That's the type of mortgage insurance that protects the lender if you miss your payment, right? And so, in order to avoid that, you can put down 20%, and they say, okay, this person has enough skin in the game for us to feel comfortable that, we're not going to have to bail them out, right? And so those are things to be aware of and be mindful of. Now, there are also programs out there that can help you. For me, I use a program called NACA. And the reason why I chose to go through NACA was because I didn't have a credit score. I have been completely debt free for over a year. And so I had a credit history, but I did not have a score. And NACA is one of those organizations that will help you get into a home without where your credit score doesn't factor into it, right? And there are other banks that also do a process called manual underwriting, who can also help you get into a mortgage without taking into account your credit score. So it's a different process. Again, more about that, the specifics of all of that in a future episode. But just know that it is possible. That's why I wanted to include that, because you have to know that it's possible. And sometimes these things don't seem possible because we don't really know anybody who's done it. We know people who've done it the same way, right? You got to get your credit score up. You got to have, 750 to 800. No, you don't. I didn't. I didn't have a credit score at all. Okay. I put in my stuff. No score came up. All right. And so I only got a score recently because now I own a home. So just know that it is possible to go into home ownership, to purchase a home without a credit score, but you do need to have a down payment, and you do need to have your financial house in order, because they're going to go through everything. Okay, so the other thing that you need savings for is emergencies. Your emergency fund is extremely important, and your emergency fund needs to be separate from whatever money you're saving for a down payment. When I moved into my house, we were here, boxes were in, I was setting things up. One day it rained and I noticed a puddle in my front yard. I'm thinking, oh, it rained and the water is just pooling there. Not okay, but nothing major to worry about. Well, the pool never receded. It never went away. It wasn't just because it rained. There was a leak in my water line. Unfortunately, after 2 repairs, I had to have the water line replaced, and the part of the line that was broken was on my property, so I was responsible. Not the HOA, not the county, me. And so I had to reach into that lovely emergency fund that I was so proud of, and I had to pay for every repair and for the replacement of the entire water line. It is not a joke, right? But if I had used all of the money in my savings for the down payment or for some cosmetic stuff in the house, I would have had to go back into debt to pay for that repair. The third key to unlocking your potential for home ownership is credit. Now, I mentioned earlier that you don't necessarily have to have a credit score to purchase a home. For me, I didn't want to have a credit score because I just didn't want to have debt. I wanted to be completely debt free. And I still am completely debt free, except for, of course, this, my house, right? And so know that it is possible. And so, like I mentioned, you have programs like NACA out there. There are other programs that can help you. There are mortgage companies, lenders who do a process called manual underwriting. And that process requires a lot of proof, right, from you that you are able to pay. But if you're a person who wants to be completely debt free before you buy your home and you're not going to have a credit score, just know that it is possible for you to do that. Um, there's some things that you have to show. You have to show proof of paying your rent on time for at least a year. You have to show some other bills that you have been consistently paying on time, maybe a phone bill, your utility bills, things like that. Just showing that, hey, I'm a responsible person who has been able to pay. And the other part of that is being able to show that with your income and expenses, you can actually cover the difference between whatever your rent is and what your mortgage might be, right? And so I know with NACA, they tell you based on your budget, based on how much money you make, all of these factors, this is how much of a mortgage you can afford. This is how much monthly payment you can afford, and therefore, this is how much mortgage you can afford overall. And they will give you a specific parameters like this is your ceiling when you're shopping for your home, right? And take those things seriously because you may want a $400,000 house, but you may only be able to realistically afford a $350,000 house, right? And so you have to understand that that cap is for your benefit. That cap is so that you don't end up stretching yourself too thin and potentially defaulting on your mortgage. I cannot walk away without sharing with you guys a few additional keys to my home ownership journey because I can't I can't tell the story or walk you through the process without stressing a few things that I had to shift. First, I had to shift from relying on myself to relying on God. If it's one thing my student loan story showed me, it is that God will show up and show out on my behalf. And I can't do it all in my own strength. And if I do, am I really going to achieve what I'm supposed to achieve, right? And so understanding that God's plan is better than my plan always. And so I had to make sure that He was part of the process with me on this, that I was not just going out, jumping into something that He had not put His hand on. Like the Bible tells us, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain. So do not labor in vain. Make the Lord part of your process. In fact, make Him the head and the leader of your process when you're looking at buying a house. The next thing I had to do was shift from free flowing finances to deliberate discipline. The financial journey is not for the faint of heart. You have to make sacrifices, you have to cut, you have to do so many things in order to reach your goal that you have set forth. And it's not easy to do that because I want to buy what I want to buy. It's my money. And I don't want nobody telling me what to do and da 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 da, right? But if you want to reach your goal, if you want home ownership to be a reality, you're gonna have to put some discipline in place. You need to get on a written budget. You need to do that budget every month. You need to consistently check that budget and make sure that your spending is lining up with what your plan is, okay? Because those are the things that are going to help you in the future. Not only are they going to help you save for that down payment or save for that emergency fund, they're also going to help you build the muscle so that when you do get the house, when you do get the increase, you continue to steward it well, even after the goal is reached. And finally, you have to attach your desire to a deeper legacy. See, when I got my home, even before, when I was just praying about my house, I knew I didn't just want a house for me. I didn't even just want it for my daughter. She's a big part of it because this will be part of her legacy. But I wanted it for other women. Before I got this house, I was living in a 1-bedroom basement apartment with my daughter. And the woman I was living with, my landlord, was also a divorced woman with children. And I remember living in that basement apartment and just being so grateful that she had carved out space in her home to be able to offer space to someone else for a very affordable price in a safe neighborhood with, amenities and things that my daughter and I could continue to have the lifestyle that we liked without paying, astronomical prices. And I said, Lord, I want to do that. I want to help somebody else the way this woman has helped me. I want a home that not only I can leave as a legacy for my daughter, but I want a home that when the next woman comes and she's looking for a roof for a price that she can afford, I want to be a person who can say, oh, yeah, I got you. Oh, yeah, you can come here, right? And so when you're able to tie your desire to something deeper than just your own personal gain or your own personal convenience, it makes it that much easier to stick to the goal, to stay the course, because you know you're doing it for something deeper than just yourself. So I hope I haven't drug this out too long. And I hope you guys have got some good value out of it. Let me know what you think, or if you have questions, make sure you drop those in the comment section. If you are divorced, if you are separated, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and come back for the next video. If you know someone who is divorced or separated, share this video with them, bless them with this, and I hope that it has blessed you as well. Bye.